Hey YouTube, Renee here once again, and this time I just was looking around in my humidor, and there's not much in there. I don't it's been a long time since I really bought cigars. The only time I really buy cigars these days is you know when there's a special occasion that I know I'm gonna need cigars for. Um, a lot of times, the only times that I would ever smoke cigars, as far as with someone else, was, on holidays getting together with my father-in-law, because I actually got him smoking cigars that, he actually enjoyed and thought it was fun, so. Sorry, cat starts messing around. Um, but one of the things that I wanted to talk about when it comes to cigars, and please, by no means am I an expert on cigars. I'm not. I used to smoke them a lot back in the day, back in my 20s, I think, maybe in my 30s. But, you know, as you guys know, cigars can be very expensive. And when you compare, cigars to pipe tobacco, the difference in price, I think the difference in overall taste and variety, I think, differs quite substantially. When it comes to price, I mean, hello, you walk out of a cigar store, with, you know, maybe a week's worth of cigars. But if you turn around, if you take that same amount of money and you put it towards pipe tobacco, well, you end up with months worth of pipe tobacco. That's the difference. But when it comes to taste, unless you really smoke cigars a lot, you're really not going to find that much of a difference in taste between one cigar and another. So, it's not like pipe tobacco where the tastes are completely different, and you can tell. Even if you're a beginner, you can still tell, at least between some of them. I think when it comes to cigars, especially, in my opinion, when I first started smoking cigars, it was really hard for me to, distinguish between something, one cigar and another. It wasn't until, I developed a palate, I think, that I was able to maybe not distinguish between cigar brands or anything like that, but I could certainly tell what cigar was a good cigar and which one wasn't. So, with that, let me just show you what I think is quite possibly a great cigar, an awesome beginner cigar, if you will, and just something that's just, it's classic. It's got a classic taste. It's not too harsh. It's and it's not a weak cigar either. And the price, it's up there. It's not way up there, but it's not a $2 cigar. Let's just put it to you this way. What I'm smoking right now is Punch. Just a little Punch Champion. And that's the only reason why, by the way, that's the only reason why I have the band on there. So you guys could see it. Otherwise, I never smoke cigars with a band. But like I said, this cigar is just, maybe the shape of it is not, maybe if you're a beginner, maybe you want something, a little bit more robust, something that looks a lot cooler holding it, and I totally understand that. But when it comes to taste, and I think developing a taste for cigars, I think this is something that is not an aromatic cigar, which I would not recommend. But it's not too much of a harsh cigar, and it's not a bland one either. I think it's right up there, and for the price, it's well worth giving it a try, building your palate up with something like this. The reason that I started, that I wanted to do this kind of a video is simply because I keep seeing, a lot of cigars being given away, a lot of cigars that are, keep being passed around. Sorry, my cat's just, unfortunately, going through that phase. It's not even my cat. I'm the kind of parent that, kid comes by and stays for a little while. Then, when she leaves her pets behind. Oh well. Anyways, like I was saying, I keep seeing, everybody passing around these cigars, and I'm pretty sure I know where those cigars are coming from, and that's one of the little bit of advice, if I may, give you guys. And if you already know this, by all means, just stop the video and move on. But for beginners, I think one thing that I would not recommend is I would not recommend the samplers, even though they're recommended for beginners. I would ask you to stay away from samplers. One of the things that I find, and that I found myself with samplers, is that it's just a simple way, I think, for cigar shops, and I don't mean to say anything bad about cigar shops, but at the end of the day, they're just a business. They need to sell. And it doesn't matter what kind of relationship you may have. If you have a great relationship with the shop owner, then that's great, that's you. But, a local Joe just walks in, well, they don't have that kind of relationship, so they're just, a customer. And, they're a business. What they want from that customer is their money. And I think that's one of the things that is wrong with samplers. Because in a sampler, depending on what size of sampler you get, you'll get maybe one or two, maybe three good cigars. Then you'll get two or three or four decent cigars. The rest, are filler cigars, what I call filler cigars. The cigar shops know they're not going to be able to sell those by themselves, because they can't charge much for them anyway. But if you put them in, I think if they put them in a sampler, well, people will buy them, but they're not good cigars, and they're not. They don't taste good either. So, it's hard to resist, especially when you're trying out cigars, to not to buy a sampler, because you think, oh wow, there's a whole bunch of samples, a whole bunch of cigars that I can try out. But the reality is, a lot of those cigars are not going to taste good. A lot of those cigars are not good to begin with. I hate to say it, but there is such thing as a really, really bad cigar. There's such thing as a horrible cigar. And you get a lot of that, in samplers. And it sucks because at the end of the day, what you would have spent buying that one good cigar, at the end of the day, it just ends up costing you a lot more because the rest of the cigars, first of all, if you're a beginner, they're really, really going to deter you from cigar smoking. And, you're going to end up giving them away. Somebody else. You're not going to enjoy them. You're not going to want to smoke them. It's just going to be a waste of money, in my opinion. So, I think, when buying cigars, the best thing to do is, I hate saying this, but it's true, go for, definitely go for the hype. Definitely go for the price. You know what? That's a better thing to say, actually. Go for the price. Buy yourself a good cigar. Something that, and mind you, I'm not saying that, all expensive cigars are going to be good. No, because you know what? You get a full flavored cigar, and, if you're very beginning, it's not going to taste good. But definitely do not go for the cheap stuff at all. No matter what, do not go for it. Because even if they're not full, they're just mild. They taste bad. A bad cigar is a bad cigar. Whether it's a full flavored cigar or whether it's a mild cigar, it's just a bad cigar. It's going to taste bad. But if you go for maybe the middle point and maybe try to find out if it's a mild cigar, even if it's a mild cigar, a very mild cigar, definitely go for a higher end brand that's it's going to be a little bit more money. And start off with that. Start off like that. Unfortunately, like I said, and everybody will agree, cigars is a very expensive habit. Really good cigars are more expensive than drugs. I don't know. But, and another thing I like to definitely talk about, and this is something that I've always followed. When it comes to cigars, I have always followed the hype. When it comes to cigars like Cuban cigars, I personally find that Cuban cigars are the best cigars in the world. I really do. And, well, this is not a Cuban cigar, but just showing it out a little bit more. They are well made, and they come from good soil. The tobacco plants come from good soil, and it's just a good cigar. And whatever the price you get it at, I think you're going to enjoy the taste. When it comes to, a full flavored cigar, or even a mild cigar, I think if you go with Cuban cigars, I think you're going to be okay. But definitely, I would not recommend samplers, because in a sampler, you're not going to get much, and what you're going to end up with is a bunch of cigars that you're not going to like, you're not going to want to smoke, and you're just going to end up giving them away to somebody who is probably going to end up giving them away too, because that's just what they are, Go away. A lot of times, I would venture to say that the cigar houses got those for free themselves when they, put in their order or something like that. They use those as, put in samplers. Or samplers, mind you. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just saying I would say that maybe that's the case. I'm not saying that that's the case. Anyways. And there is 15 minutes of your time. So I'm going to stop it there. Thank you very much for listening, and as always, compadres, comadres, vayan con Dios.